Do you eat healthy all the time, but then find yourself binging uncontrollably at night? Been there before. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to stop that binge eating pattern so you can cut the shame, the guilt, and return to your peaceful life. If you are looking for more proven, evidence-based tools on how to overcome binge eating, get out of the diet and restriction cycle, to have a loving, accepting, confident relationship with yourself and your body, you can subscribe to my channel and you'll be notified every week when I post a new video. Let's dive in. So, why are you binging at night or binging in the day if you are eating healthy throughout the day? What a mystery. I know, it's probably really frustrating for you. I've been there before. I struggled with binge eating and I was such a healthy eater and I had no idea what was going on, and I would cry myself to sleep because of the uncontrollable binges that I had, and even the binges were unhealthy food. So I didn't carry any unhealthy food in my house, but I found there to be any opportunity to binge, and then it would just happen and I wouldn't be able to control it. And I didn't know what to do. I was at a loss. I tried so many different things. Nothing worked. And my shame and guilt and depression just kept getting worse and worse, where I didn't even want to leave the house. And I'm here to tell you that you can absolutely overcome this. And I'm going to show you a proven tool to do this. So here are a couple things. One, when you are binging at night, even though you're eating healthy, here are some reasons why that could be happening. Number one, there are some underlying emotions that you are struggling with that are not feeling comfortable to be processed. Therefore, you are using food as a tool to numb or process those feelings. This is really common, also known as emotional eating. So you might find yourself eating really healthy, and at the end of the night, when you're done work, the adrenaline calms down. You might notice some feelings start to come up, and then notice yourself using food as the tool to soothe yourself. If this is the case, not to worry. There are many different things you can do to soothe your emotions, okay? So just ask yourself if that might be one of the reasons. In that case, we can use, either you can work with someone you trust, so a professional, to work through your emotions. You can also practice talking through them on your own, asking your body, what's going on for me in this moment that I'm not feeling comfortable to deal with or move through? What is my body really asking for instead of food? So that's a starting point to start navigating how you can actually overcome the pattern of emotionally eating, which is also tied to what we call overeating, binge eating. So it's all kind of in the same series. Number two, so if you are feeling that, no, it's not emotional, it's not something that I'm trying to numb out with food, then here's another consideration. If you are someone who has been chronically restricting your whole life or dieting, then it is likely that your body is feeling that it needs to activate its compensatory mechanisms to bring you back to your regular set point. Everyone has a set point, a weight set point in their body where we fluctuate anywhere between 10 to 20 pounds, which is considered our normal quote unquote homeostasis, where our genetics, where our body naturally sits. So there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, we have these set points, and that's where we naturally sit when we are eating regularly in a healthy way, moving our body, all those things intuitively. And what happens is when we engage in chronic restriction or dieting, which by the way is not your fault, when we've been grown up with so many messages about what to restrict, what to not eat, your body starts to feel threatened and therefore kicks in its compensatory mechanism. So if you're restricting too much, what happens is it actually has the inverse effect of what you're thinking. Many people restrict because they believe it's going to lead to weight loss, or most of the time it is weight loss that they believe they're going to attain. And what happens is that instead we actually create a lot of host of issues in our body. So we slow down our metabolism. Our body starts to store fat because it believes that you are going into famine. So it is feeling threatened with the lack of food and nutrients. Therefore, it stores fat to maintain that source of nutrients. It actually will then also really try and kick in this sort of feeling where food becomes like a drug, this insatiable appetite for food, because it is propelling you almost unconsciously. I know for those of you who are finding that yourself binging, it's like you consciously know you don't want to do it, but it's a mechanism that feels almost out of body, like it pushes you to do that. That is your body's natural, innate compensatory mechanisms kicking in to override, what you're consciously thinking of to save your body, because it feels that you are in starvation. So this is such an interesting conversation because, again, the diet culture really fools us into believing that we have to restrict in order to have a healthy relationship with our bodies, and that bad things are going to happen if you have freedom around food. But in fact, what is proven time and time again is that there are no positive things associated with restriction and diets. In fact, it's proven that less than 2% of individuals who ever go on a diet actually maintain any form of weight loss, and that's because your weight is largely defined by your genetics, and we all have a set point, and we try to mess with it and we restrict more, our body kicks in. That's when we start experiencing more overeating, binge eating, all to bring us back to our healthy set point. And the damage also is that if you are consistently restricting and you are dieting, that your body, again, you really muck around with your metabolism, you increase the amount of weight gain, you actually increase your weight set point because your body's trying to protect against future famine and restriction. So if you are feeling that this could be you, that you are restricting, and this means, restricting, it doesn't mean that you're on doesn't necessarily mean that you're on an actual plan. It can mean that you're just actually practicing having some rules and regulations around food. So if you are restricting food in any way, you feel guilt or shame around eating certain foods, you are afraid of certain foods, your relationship with food is dictated around the fear of gaining weight, you spend a lot of mental energy around food, you avoid certain situations because of food, you feel like certain foods you can't be around because you can't control yourself around them. All these are forms of restriction, and these cause a lot of stress and harm to the body. So not to worry, you can overcome this, but this is likely the key link to why you are overeating and binge eating, whether that be at night or in the day. So in order to really fix this cycle, we actually have to eliminate restriction. And that might be really scary for you. And I hear you. As a person who restricted my whole life, I was very fearful for a lot of reasons in letting go of restriction, and some common misconceptions around practicing intuitive eating and releasing rules around food and starting to trust your body and what it wants to eat. We start to believe, well, if I let go of my restriction, then I'm, number one, going to gain a bunch of weight. Okay. Number two misconception is that I'm going to eat everything in sight. Number three misconception is that controlling food is how I stay healthy. So let's unpack these a little bit, and it will support you to have more understanding and education around how you can free yourself from this binge eating. So again, as we talked about, restriction is actually something that does lead to weight gain. That has been proven, okay? 88% of people who go on a diet or restrict in any way actually gain more weight than what they had lost being on that diet, and again, raise their set point. Your body is naturally going to fall between a range that is comfortable at, and the harm is that we've been subjected to so much pressure in the media that we all think that we should be in a different body size, and that causes us to feel pressure to restrict. And we're not designed to all look the same. So part of this work is really doing body image healing work to support yourself to feel loving and accepting of who you are today in whatever shape and size that you're in, because truly your worth has nothing to do with your body. And I really get that it's challenging to get to that place when we've been taught so many different messages about our body and our worth. So again, if we can start to release this fear of gaining weight and really look at the facts, dieting and restriction is what is really causing us to harm our metabolism, to really actually increase weight gain as a result of pushing our body past a place that feels that it wants to sit at, right? Our body is working for us, not against us. And when we restrict, we are causing our body to kick in and to save itself from all of that starvation and famine. And when I use those words like starvation, it doesn't mean that you're literally not eating in a day, but when you're eating below what your body needs, it believes that you're starving. And that's why it acts out in these periods of overeating and binge eating. And again, the more rules we have around food, this is another thing, the more insatiable food becomes, the more food actually becomes like a drug in your brain where the dopamine rush is so strong from eating something like a cookie that your body just can't not eat it. And so by creating these labels around food and restrictions, we actually do propel ourselves directly to binge. So being able to work through the restriction, releasing rules around it, having more freedom and trust that your body's going to work with you, you will release the tide to binge eating. This is exactly what happened for me. So other things with that, we talked about there is this misconception that you're going to eat everything in sight if you eliminate any rules around food. And while, initially, if you were to release some rules around food, maybe you do want to go eat pizza or pasta or things that you originally demonized around food groups, but you're going to quickly learn that when you have the freedom and accessibility to eat whatever you want, your body isn't going to want to eat that every day. It's the minute that we take it off the table that it becomes that drug-like mentality where we don't feel like we have a lot of control around our food. But when we have freedom around it and choice, you get to actually develop a really beautiful, trusting relationship with your body where you get to learn what feels good for your body, when your body wants to eat it, and so on. And it becomes this really amazing rapport where you get to work in tandem with your body. The other thing is when we're chronically restricting and dieting, we lose our ability to appropriately tune into our hunger and satiety. So we lose those signals altogether. And so our body has to try and overcompensate and try and make us hungry and overeat because again, it's being triggered and it's feeling like you're in a starvation mode. So by eating intuitively and releasing rules around food, we actually release all this stress and pressure in our bodies, and we're actually able to come back to a place where we know what feels good and how much feels good to eat. It's so funny because we give so much power to an outside voice dictating what we should and shouldn't do when the real person that knows what's best for you is you, and you were born with that ability, but we become conditioned through society and diet culture over time to lose sight of our own voice and to follow whatever they are preaching to us. I might add that at this point, the diet industry is worth over $303 billion, and this industry would not be as strong as it is if diets actually worked. They profit off of the fact that we buy into restriction, we buy into the diets, they are never successful, they don't work, and then we feel guilt and shame. We tell ourselves that we're a failure, and if only we do it more perfectly the next time, then we'll feel good. And what do? Round and round again, we go on this cycle. Restrict, binge, I'm a failure, now I have to undo all of that binging, now I'm going to restrict again, and then my body goes round and round. So this might be a really beautiful sign and opportunity for you to decide this isn't working for you anymore and you're willing to have the relationship you want with your body. Next piece is, so as I was saying, yes, you might initially, if you release rules around food, decide, okay, I'm going to eat some of these foods that were off the table for me. But once you do that, you're going to realize they're not that interesting and you're not going to want to eat them every day. You're not going to want to eat pizza 7 days a week, 3 meals a day, because you have options for anything. And it's once we take these food groups off the table that they become really exciting and almost bad and like you're a rebel for eating them. So it's kind of like when your parents told you you can't date that person. Did you really listen, or did you actually go behind their back and do it anyway? Next thing is our picture of health, our relationship with our weight and our body is so much more than food. Food represents one very small piece of it. So you have to consider there are a lot of things also that impact your weight. We've only been taught this consistent message that diet and exercise are the two things that contribute to your weight. That is not true. The stress that you have about your body and food and diet has a deteriorating effect on your health. So if you're chronically obsessing about what you're eating, feeling guilty about your food, feeling, doubting what you should and shouldn't eat throughout the day, and all that mental energy is going towards your relationship with food and your body, and you're terrified of losing weight, stress increases, and these negative thoughts about our body increase the amount of cortisol in our blood. And that slows our metabolism, it slows our energy, it decreases our sleep, it increases fat storage. It's just like there's a whole host of issues that directly contribute to your weight when you're having negative thoughts about your body and food. The irony being so strong, everything that dieting and restriction preaches it gives you, it does the opposite. It removes our ability to be in partnership with our body, it lowers our self-esteem, it ruins our self-image. It puts so much pressure on food and our relationship to food. It makes us obsessed with food. We lose our spark and joy for life. We control our lives through what we're doing with food. We miss out on opportunities. Like, the things are endless that dieting does to us. And as I said, it leads to weight gain. So it's so bananas to me that I get it because we're conditioned to believe, but hopefully this can give you some inspiration that if you are still restricting, that it actually isn't working and is not creating the outcome that you want. And by releasing these rules around food and overcoming your fear around weight gain and all those things, you will experience the freedom that you want and you will no longer experience binge eating. Okay, so those are some really important pieces that I hope you take away. So if you would like to practice a proven tool that helps you to directly support your brain to release these attachments and patterns to overeating, undo the fear that is associated with weight gain, reduce the intensity of your binges, then try these videos here. I am teaching you the proven tools that supported me along with what I taught you in this video to overcome binge and emotional eating. So I can't wait for you to check them out. And if you're looking for an instant body confidence shift, you can download my free guide below to get started right now with 5 proven tips. And know that if you are struggling, you are not alone. I am here for you. This is exactly what my proven program has supported countless women to overcome worldwide. Together, we can end emotional and binge eating. You can overcome the fear of gaining weight. You can have a loving, accepting relationship with your body. You can say goodbye to dieting once and for all, and you can throw out the scales. So if that sounds good, you can give me a call. I do free consult calls, 60 minutes, and would love to talk to you. You are beautiful. You are worthy. I will see you again next week. And please let me know how you're feeling in the comments below. Would love to learn what your favorite tip was.